so much has been happening. I don't even know where to start, but I gotta catch you guys all up to speed because I have parts that have shown up and a lot of stuff that I haven't showed you guys yet. So let's start it off. Fuel cell tray. You guys saw me making that the other day. Machined some bungs that I welded onto the side. Got my height with a tab there to get it level in the car. And here is my Pyrotech fuel cell. Boom. 15 gallons, -10 vent, -6 pickup. I have a fuel gauge coming that was not in stock. 2 1/4 inch fill neck because that is part of the rules in the rule book. So that showed up, and let me show you what else showed up. Ooh. PRP seats, purple with ostrich. That is fire. Also my Y strap for my spare, my 6x3x2 harness, and then a speed strap in case if anything happens. Hopefully nothing happens and we do not have to use that because that's going to be a bad day. I think I've shown you guys my little hoon handle. Not sure if I'm going to run that in the race or not, just because these hoon handle lines, the e-brake lines, are the lowest point on the rear trailing arms. Not too sure I'm going to run those. I got the hood on. I have my rigid light bar on. This is an amber. I also have my pods with side shooters that I made tabs for that are going to go right here. And yes, the hood will fully open with those on. Big deal there. Got to be able to see. I also did my hood pins. Ooh, I made it tight. Boom. That way my hood stays secure. I know I know Richard at Rage at the River, his hood flew up, Class 11 brothers, and he's like, just secure that thing tight. So we got her tight. Let's see what else I got going on up in here. I think we've already touched down on the brakes being bled. These are back in where the hood brackets are trimmed nice and neat. Tie rods are on. I put all new MP body hardware on, as well as a couple gaskets in the bottom there. Let's see. Oil cooler. Oil cooler is mounted here. That's a beautiful thing to check off the list as well. And I think that's about it so far. But those are the updates. Waiting to hear back from Dave on the transmission to go pick that up. That should be done in the next day or two. Oh, I also got the rear hood on and adjusted accordingly. There's adjustment here, and then there's also adjustment here for your body line in and out, all that good stuff. So I got that adjusted, and then I hit out the quick pin, or the pins that were in here, and put quick pins on. So that way you can just pop these off and pop the hood off super easy and not have to mess with any of your adjustment. Super nice little deal. And then also put my pins in the rear. One other thing, I got more. I took these tires to Scat. These were the Gladiator X-Comp, or Gladiator ATRs. So these are like a side-by-side tire. They're super rounded, which means less side bite. I also had them shaved. I had 5/8 of an inch of tread shaved off of these, as well as the edges to help save my front fenders when turning. These should be a pretty well-rounded tire, I think, for now, with bite, braking, traction, and all the above. We want to be able to obviously go forward, so there is still tread on there. However, you don't want, if you come off of something and you buck, you do not want to land, and if you do happen to land on the gas, which you don't want to do, you don't want to have a crazy amount of bite. Also, with that crazy amount of bite and all the extra rubber, your tire, I shaved off 6.5 pounds per tire. 6.5 pounds per tire on something with 82 horsepower or whatnot to the wheels is substantial. Not only that, for braking and acceleration with the stock gear ratio that we're going to be running the transmission, I doubt we're going to be able to touch fourth. So those are some of the updates. I'm gonna pack the front wheel bearings. I'm gonna get this fuel cell in, and I'll show you guys kind of the final fit and finish on some of that stuff as the day kind of unfolds. So we're making moves, we're making serious progress, and Mint 400 bust. Next update's gonna be sick. Parts are gonna be in, shit's gonna be checked off. I like it. See this? Whole bunch of added on pieces to my main cardboard structure. This is what you would call a template. This is what you would call a giant fucking mess. Excuse my French. Garrett's over here laughing at me. Yeah, dude, I know. I'm a professional mess maker.
Just making cardboard houses. I was like, get them down.
But here is the first panel, the first half of it at least. It's tucked nice and tight. Radius, I'm going to trim a little bit down here in case if my pan flexes up when it hits rocks. Since this down here is thin, I don't want it to crinkle the aluminum. So I gave everything a little bit of a gap, and then tucked it up nice and tight up in there. Around the tube, I'm gonna bevel this edge here and then put a couple fancy designs, maybe a couple triangles or something, or I don't know, something. What do you think?
Dude, that looks really clean, honestly.
It's all right.
I feel like you're building a trophy truck over here. It's just a bug, man.
It's
just a little bug.
It is.
It's a nice bug, though.
It's a nice bug, but so this will match the radius here. I'll put a little Zeus tab off of here, grab it here.
Do some bead rolling on that thing, or what?
Yeah, man.
You should definitely bead roll it.
Oh yeah, get a little string.
Yeah.
Might as well. Do something here, something over there. The other side, I'm gonna have to put a step in it before I break it.
Yeah, definitely.
That way, because otherwise you break it, it'll look like shit right there on the corner. So something just to be aware of. I'll show you guys this panel when it's all finished. Oh yeah, fuel cell's in. That Pyrotech fuel cell, she is in. Stitch it a couple times here in the back here, stitch it a little bit, stitch it on the inside here, and then put a gusset to get my elevation to make sure the tank was level. That tucks up nice there. Once I put these in, I'm gonna have to notch around where my belt marks are, give it like a little gapper here, and yeah, I gotta run a couple errands before I get back to this, but that's the start of the firewall and the mess that it takes to make it. Giant mess everywhere. I gotta go run some errands, get some more material, get some other parts, and there's looking good as always. So once this is finalized and done, yeah, maybe tomorrow, I don't know. A lot to do today, but shocks are done tomorrow too, so hoping I can get this done tonight to where I can go pick up the King shocks tomorrow from King and check those bad boys out. I'm really excited to see those, get those in the car. Bam! Slug Shark shocks. So give me the breakdown on these bad boys. I mean, these aren't your ideal shocks that you make here, but these are class 11 specific, right?
Yep. 18 inches from eye to eye, center to center. It's got all the class 11 rules. You have the adjuster with the fin reservoir, so you know.
Sick.
Hit it hard, and obviously having less oil volume, you get a little bit warmer.
Yeah.
So this obviously helps it quite a bit.
Awesome.
And then you have the adjustment. So typically you don't have adjustments on these, so
that's rad.
play with it a little bit.
Is this something you
can
think?
only do so much, but something is something. So
something is something. Is this something you think
compared
that
to a class that is a limited class, you can actually mess with it, you know.
That's
so
rad.
This beats getting underneath the torsion bar and adjusting your torsion bars every time. So
yeah, I think the torsion is mainly just ride height, right?
pretty much, but you can also play with it a little bit. You can adjust it a little bit. So you obviously, it's like everything. You preload a little bit more and stuff like that. So, yeah.
You guys have a few class 11 boys in-house here.
Yeah, we do. Albert and no, I think that's it.
Albert, cool. Albert, you guys are well-rounded at these. This isn't your first time you built these.
No, we made some for some other guys. Don't remember exactly who.
But when people saw that we were doing this, they wanted a set or two.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
we
rad.
already have. We started with yours. Well, yours is the one that kicked off everything actually, because we made your set, and along with this, I think there's some that are going across the pond.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think those were the ones that we made first with the black nano that I was gonna send you the picture for. Yeah, so and we made like 10 kits. You know, might as well make them all at the same time.
So there's a couple other manufacturers that make these shocks, but they do not have the adjustment. They don't have the fin reservoirs. They don't have all these goodies on them. So King, I would say, is definitely a step above. By having the reservoir hose come out the bottom, you get a better bump zone, as well as you get cooler oil to cycle to keep the shock from building heat and fading.
We put the bigger 5/8 bearings on there, so it's a little stronger.
5/8 bearings on there. You know, the reason being with the bigger shaft, the 7/8 shaft, that way as the shock gets kind of side loaded, since the mount isn't directly on top, it's going to protect the shaft and less likely that the shaft would bind or bend in a crazy
Makes it
heavy
stronger,
impact. You know,
Yeah.
it does take away a little volume of oil. However, these are the premier elite class 11
This would be
shocks,
top of the food
hands
chain
down.
right here.
So I have to build the whole back half of this car surrounding these, and I got like a week and a half
Wow.
to build the whole back of the half car, get my transmission, motor, wiring, plumbing, and air intake system. So
When's the race gonna be? Laughlin?
mint.
Mint. You're gonna have a busy weekend.
So we're gonna package these things up, throw these in the Hyundai Elantra, and go set these girls in the car and cut some of that wheel well out, start cycling it, and hopefully have shock mounts by the end of today. These guys took care of this. They have a handful of other sets. If you're looking to get in class 11, this is the top end shock package. They also have other options that are much more costly, but get in the garage with your pops or your son and build a class 11. Let's go fucking racing, baby. Mint 11 or Mint 400 or bust. Thank you guys so much, dude. That's what's up. I'll see you soon. Yeah, let's get to it, baby. These are sick. Oh yeah, once again, this facility is absolutely mind-blowing. I love coming here. I could spend all day rummaging around, and I'm stoked. Super stoked. Back at the shop. Now that I got these shocks, I'm gonna show you what we're doing with these shocks. I put my Gladiator tire on my stock factory wheel, method race wheel, of course, you know, and pretty much I marked, when I put my tire on, my center line of where my tire is gonna be. So everything from this line over, it's a very vague mark, everything from this line this way towards the outside of the car is what would come in contact. So that means I have to have my shock body on this side, and then everything's going to kind of point inward. I also took a 90, a square, and then I bumped it out and I measured, this is my 90 degrees off of my trailing arm. So when this is that bump, that's my 90-degree center line. Depending on where I'm going to place my shock in relativity to the hub, you know, if I come outside a little bit where I lose a little bit of structure, I might bring it forward just a tiny bit, somewhere roughly in like right here. That way there'll be a little more leverage on the shock. However, it will also allow it to get into the meat where there's some strength back there, and it's not hanging out here where there's pretty much no downward strength, because if it folds this plate over, that's not going to be good. It's going to touch my CVs and cause a bunch of issues with binding and whatnot. So pretty much the outside of my tab has to be right here, and then the shock has to lean over just ever so slightly. When I also cycled it up, I also marked where the edge of the tire is here. So my shock body has to basically inset inside of this long line here. So realistically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with cutting a little bit and put a tube up through here, and kind of cycle it with a tube, a 2-inch round tube, which is the size of my body, and put the tire on there, and then just see where that tube lands and all that good stuff. Try not to put too much angle on it, off to the side angle. However, I feel like there has to be a little bit, depending on where it'll land, for where my cage is going to come in and tie into that as well. So this is my process through cycling my shocks and getting these King 2.0s on here, as well as what I did before I started on this, just so I didn't forget. I put my seatbelt clip-in eyelets. I put this one off the tube here. Both of them are about an inch off of the seat tube. This one I welded a 3/4 washer and then welded the center with like a rosette weld, and then welded this girl on to clip my belts on. The rear ones will go through where my belts will go through and have a little notch in them and all that good stuff. So that's where we're at. I'm gonna keep jamming on this, and I'll show you a couple of the steps and processes as these shocks start to mount up. What's that? Yeah, check it out. Woo! Woo! Got some more trimming to do. But shock number 1 is in. We got tubes coming up into here. It's looking sick. It's looking sick. Hey, cowboy.
Hey.
Will you pull this jack out?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Look at all this travel, dude. Oh, Jesus, criminies.
All 9 inches.
Not quite, but close. That's exciting. There's the shock up in there. Here, hold on. Let's pull this here wheel off. Yeah, yeah, da 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 da. Wow, hey, hey. Boom. So I added another plate right here. As you can see, I protected the shock with some tape and my brake lines. I put another 1/8 inch chromoly plate here. Made some tabs that came off the back of it. If you look, I am just past the center line, so that means basically I'm basically a little over 1-to-1 on this on cycling it. The shock is really close to 90, perfect 90 at bump with where I want it to be. When this girl's about bumped out, I'm hitting where I'm bumping here, so I'm gonna have to trim a tiny bit more right there. Got my spacers back in for the back of the body, but that is looking sick. That is looking really good. I really like that. My shock's centered in my little pocket here with the reservoir. Everything's clearing really well and nice and right. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna bring a tube from here up to here, and I'll pick up off of that tube. I'll pick up the other side, the tab. I put a boss right here. I could have made it a little bit longer, but it'll be all right. I can use an Allen head, or I can use
12 point.
a 12 point, yeah. So whatever, it's all good. Just the hard part is gonna be making the other side match now, cowboy.
We got this.
No big deal, no big deal. But it looks clean. It's super tight. This is kind of protecting the shock, but you know, I mean, if the body does flex, I'm gonna clearance a little bit more out here just to give it a little bit more clearances. But figure out where I'm gonna mount the reservoirs. Haven't decided quite yet. Where do you think we should mount these resis, cowboy?
I think we should do a shout out to King and put them like, yeah, somewhere in that area. Just make
Ooh.
sure I hit fill neck for the fuel cell.
Yeah, that looks sick. You get nice airflow, keep them cool.
Yeah, the spins need to do
Yes. It's either that or behind the firewall in the back here, but we're gonna have seat belts and all that stuff, so maybe we'll just set them right up in here. I like that. That'll be nice. So this is tonight's progress. It's a little late. Been putting these 2-on-2 gloves over the ends of these so I don't bang them all up. You know. Oh shit! There she goes. Good. There she goes. Here, let me get a little. No glove, no love, baby. No glove, no love. But so tight. We could also run those back down here too, if we wanted to.
The higher up, the better.
More airflow.
Yeah, more airflow over the fins, and you know, King came out with these badass shocks for us to run in this 11 car. We got to give a big shout out to them, put them proud on that up there.
But low CG, man.
We have a lot of stuff low. I mean, we've got our fuel cell all the way low. That's really not going to add any extra weight up high.
I love it. Well, I think we're gonna call it a night. It's like 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of cycling, a lot of cutting, a lot of trimming, just to try and make it tight and right. It wasn't the easiest thing getting this thing nice and centered in here, and just cycling it a few times, and obviously didn't want to have a huge gaping hole in there, so this ended up being really nice and centered, which I'm excited about. I got a little bit more trimming to do. I want to give this a little bit more clearance and just make this follow the line of the shock. Other than that, right here is where the center of my body is. I'm gonna radius this open. I'm also gonna radius this right here where that Sharpie mark is, to where one, I can get a bolt in there, then my tab can also come through on that, and everything will look cush and kosher. And then you can see this badass side mounted eyelet there. So that is, it's a wrap for today. I mean, figuring all this out on these stock class 11 bugs is, it's not rocket science, it's just time consuming to do it and do it right. These are gonna look sick, and tomorrow I should have both sides buttoned up, 100% cycled, welded. Yeah, and then after that, picking transmission up from Dave McDowell. Richard Sletton should have the motor done by like Saturday, Sunday. And then hopefully a motor and a transmission will be in here, and Cowboy's gonna get to some wiring. Once that's in. Also got my rigid 360 lights for the front fenders for the headlights. Those are gonna look sick with amber backlit. I'm really excited about those, and need to do skid plates still and rear bumper, but first things first, finish these shocks tomorrow. Final tighten up these trailing arms with all new 1/2-inch hardware, torque the hub assemblies and yeah, everything.
We got a lot of work ahead of us. Got a little over 2 weeks to get it done, but we want to test the weekend before, so really only have a week and a half at this point.
Carrying on. Tomorrow we'll have these things, I'll have these shocks done, cycled, and the back half of this car.